Hi, this is Bob Sorrentino from Italian Roots and Genealogy, and you can find us on YouTube and Facebook. And soon, hopefully, we're going to have a little newsletter coming out. And I'm here today with Pat Pizzatti, and she is in Italy and she does genealogy work. So, welcome, Pat. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me. Yeah.
No, it's great to have somebody from Italy. I love when I get to talk to somebody from Italy. So, um, so with that, where in Italy do you reside?
Well, I live in Vicenza, which is northeast. It's about 80 kilometers from Venice. So we have a little bit of valley and a lot of mountains.
Very nice, very nice. So I'm going to assume, but I'm going to ask you anyway, that your family goes way back in that area. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah. Well, I was born in Argentina because because my granddad from both parents were Italian immigrating in Argentina. So I came back in about 30 years ago in 1992. So yes.
Oh, that's so interesting. So why did you go back?
Oh, well, it was, I don't know, it was something that called me, like coming back home.
I know it's
Yeah,
calling me too, but I'm too
yeah.
old.
That is when I started doing genealogy. When I was around 18 years old, I started doing and I did my citizenship just because to like honor my grandparents without knowing that I've been living here,
Yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah,
so interesting. Yeah, I'm working
it
on
was.
my citizenship. I have all the papers working now, and we're trying to decide which the best route. I don't Going through the consulate in New York City is just it's impossible.
Everywhere. Don't
Yeah.
worry.
Yeah. So I
Yeah,
think we're going to go
everywhere.
through the courts, and I could actually,
Yeah.
probably like you, I could
Mhm.
apply through all four of my grandparents. Um,
Oh, okay.
so uh, I think we may go through my mom's family in Bari because the courts may not be as crowded, and
Okay.
I'm going to meet the mayor of Torito in September, so maybe he can push it along.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah.
And they came from small town in Bari, Torito,
Okay.
uh,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
we were supposed to go there almost 28 years ago, and we never made it. And then the last trip we spent near Naples. So this time
Okay.
we're gonna go there, and I have cousins in Toronto, so we're gonna go visit them
Okay.
too. So and meet
Well,
them.
I'm living in Vicenza, but my dad is from Sondrio, Lombardia.
Oh yeah.
And my mom instead, she is from Macerata, which is Marche. So it's like
Yes.
a, a lot of mix.
Well, that's the way it is. Well, that's the way it was with the immigrants, because same thing with my
Yeah,
parents. They were from
yeah,
Bari and Naples. So that's not unusual. Uh,
yeah,
and I guess your parents, they obviously they met in Argentina, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Now
They
what did they
did.
say when you said you were going back home?
That I was mad. But then, it's like I made the top and then everybody follow me.
Really? Oh boy.
Yeah,
I'm
yes.
so jealous. I wish I did. I wish I did years ago. I mean, I want to get the citizenship now, mainly for my children, and if they have
Yeah,
children, grandchildren, so that
yeah,
they have the
yeah,
options. But
yeah.
I would come tomorrow and stay if my wife would
Oh,
let me.
excuse me.
Um,
Yeah.
when you went back, did you go back knowing that you wanted to research the family, or did that just happen when you got there?
No, it was like mm, more than looking for family, I was looking for a better future. So
And so you go back, and what did you do when you first get back? You didn't jump right into the genealogy work, did you?
No, I started working, then then I started doing genealogy, but in those times were so difficult because it wasn't, internet.
Mhm.
So it's like you have all in paper and you have to go by your own in the church, or the archives, and that things was so difficult that time. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, no, I understand. So
yeah.
now have you researched your family and where your parents came from?
Yes, I did everything. Yes.
So
And
what did
then
you find?
well, I found a lot of interesting things, like from my mom's side, I I learned that my grandfather, they've been before in Brazil, and
Oh,
from Brazil they escaped kind, and they went to Argentina, and then they came back in Italy.
wow. That's
Yes,
something.
yeah,
So
yeah.
so about what year was that, back in time? What year was that?
Oh, was about in the 1887.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
long time ago.
And
Yes.
and do you know why they went to South America in the first place? I mean, I know probably for a better life at the time, but
Yeah, yeah. When I learned about from my dad's side as well, uh, my grandfather, he went to Argentina as well to work in the they were developing the train rails. And as they were from Lombardy, they are good to work in the mountains, in the rocks, and that
Mhm.
things. So he went to Argentina to work in north for their rail trains. Yeah,
Wow, that's interesting.
yeah,
And yes, again, not unusual, for the
yeah,
ones that came to America.
yeah,
Now, have you got back very far with the family in Italy? I mean, Italians, for the most part, don't do a lot of
yeah.
genealogy. So this is like
I
new to
know.
me.
I, yeah, I know. I know. In Italy, it's like not that much people is interested in that. Everybody knows that in the family, somebody went to Australia, to the US, or in South America, but they are like not interested that much in the genealogy. But I start like a project, and I say, okay, I'm gonna try to connect everybody with everybody. Yeah. So I start indexing, the archives from Sondrio. And Sondrio has around 1,026 cities. And
Wow.
I already connect almost 50 of them. Yes. So I have a big, big family tree with around 180,000 people.
180,000.
Yes.
Oh my good. Well,
Yes.
that's the most I've heard so far.
Yes. And I got almost in one and 1,100 year. So like 2,000 years ago. Yeah.
Wow, that's something. That's something.
Yeah, a
I've
lot, a
I've been
lot.
able to go back, not with my mom and dad's family, that far, but my uh paternal grandmother is Pio Malo and Caracciolo. And Caracciolo, I've gotten back to, you know, the kings and queens of uh Spain and France and
Yes,
places like that. And the first Caracciolo was in Naples like 950. And I was able to trace through the Libro di Oro, trace back to him directly.
yes. Yeah, it's so amazing. It's like a fascinating. It's like I say, it's like a drug. You know, once you're in, you're in.
And you can't get out. That's right. No, you're
No,
absolutely right. You're
no, no,
absolutely
no. And it's incredible how you can pass hours and hours sitting on a chair, not knowing the time is flowing. You know, it's like, it's amazing. I
So
really
now,
love this.
so I have to ask, because again, I know Italians, they don't do DNA tests. Have you done a DNA test?
Yes, I did.
Oh, congratulations. Last time I should have brought some tests with me. I think I may do it this time to give to a
Yes.
couple of people because, you know, a lot of Americans do it, but getting that connection back to Italy, and I've even used Living DNA, which is based in Switzerland. And
Okay.
my wife is half Sicilian, half Puerto Rican. She's got probably 10 times as many cousins as I've been able to find because
Yes.
the Italians just don't do DNA tests.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I find more people connect to my family tree abroad than in Italy.
Yes.
Yes, I have a lot of. I say everybody is my cousin, you know. So I find a lot of cousin, you know, around the world, more than in Italy itself.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, it's interesting because my Pio Malo cousin, I found her on Facebook and she put together a group thinking that she would find people in South America and Spain because the family originally came from Spain in 1500. And she was shocked to find Americans. And in fact, at the time in the early 1900s, only two people from my grandmother's family came. That was my grandmother and her aunt had come about 5 years, 10 years before her. But everybody else is still in Italy. You know, even to
Oh,
this day, nobody's really come from that family.
yeah,
So, and I think probably because at the time they weren't poor. They weren't rich, I don't think, but well,
yeah,
some of them are going way back, but they weren't poor farmers, so they didn't need to come. And I can't figure out why my grandmother came, only that maybe because her aunt had come first and her husband was an entrepreneur, that maybe
yeah,
he said to come to America and you know, World War I was breaking out. So that's
yeah,
the only thing I could figure.
yeah. You find a lot of interesting histories, you know, doing this.
Yeah, so I was
Yeah.
going to ask you, so did you find any interesting occupations or people when you researched your family back?
Well, oh gosh. Yeah, I think so. I have a lot of, I have like I don't know how it's in English really, the occupation, you know, but I found somebody was you know, those people who need the net for the marines.
Oh, yeah,
Like was so interesting because it was like a not making. I don't know. And I have to find, you know, what was this? And I say, what is this? And yeah, it was the people who does, you know, the knot for the
yeah.
net.
hmm hmm And that was, and I'm sure that was really skilled. So they must have lived near
Yes.
they must have lived near the coast if they had that kind of industry.
Yeah, this was near Genova. Geneva.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah, yeah. My
Yeah.
mom's family, everybody was contadino,
A
uh,
contadino.
or a bacciolo. Is am I saying that right? A farmhand?
Everybody.
Everybody.
Yeah.
And then I found
Yes.
somebody back in the 1700s who was like a farmhand, not a farmhand. He was a like a forest ranger or something. I was like, oh, finally somebody did something
Oh,
different.
somebody important.
Uh,
Yes, yes,
and
right.
and
Yeah.
but my dad's father, my great great grandfather, he was an attorney. His father was an attorney. My great great
Oh.
grandmother's mother was an attorney. Uh,
Mhm.
and so completely different. I mean, in Italy, they was from two completely different classes. They never would have been
Yeah.
involved with each other. Of course, in
Yeah.
America, it was different. And
Yeah.
then on my grandmother's, my paternal grandmother's family, some of the occupations are landowner, and a couple of
Okay.
people, it just said rich person.
Oh yeah.
That
Yeah.
was their
Yeah.
occupation, rich person.
I found that. Yeah, yeah, I found that. Then I remember now I found some musicians as
Oh,
well,
nice. Yeah.
and some street like a street actor or something like that was like, yeah, I was thinking about something like, Pulcinella in
Yeah.
in Napoli. I don't know. Yeah, but I remember when I read that, I say, oh my God.
Well,
I'm a
my
street artist.
yeah, that's well, they could be in
Yeah.
Times Square now in New York City and have people give them money.
Yeah.
Uh, um, my
Mm.
my children are adopted, and I've been able to research my daughter, and
Okay.
I think it was through her biological father, because they were in America from 1600s, and
Okay.
I was able to trace her line back to the Bassano brothers. I don't know if you know the Bassano brothers, who they are. Uh,
De Bassano.
yeah, they were musicians
Okay.
um, from I don't know if it was Florence or Venice, probably Florence,
Okay.
but they went to England in the 1500s, and they were the musicians for Henry VIII,
Oh,
and they married English women. Of course, they were lived in England, and through her birth father, she has a connection back to Italy 500 years ago.
gosh, that is nice.
Crazy,
Well,
right?
you know that um, I love to to follow the 6 degree of separation. Have you
Mm,
heard about that?
yes, sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's amazing. That is lovely. Yeah, my family tree is like a testimony for that, because I have a cousin everywhere, and it's like everybody is connected with myself. Yes, yeah, it's
Yeah,
really nice.
that is something. Well, I found
Mm.
just unbelievable grandparents, like
Mm.
Ferrante of Naples, and we would watch. I don't know if they showed it over there. They showed them. They made I think it was Netflix, did a series on the Borgias, the
Yeah.
Pope, and I was watching that with my wife, and I'm saying, well, that's a grandfather, and that's a grandfather, and that's this person, and that's that person. And she was like, "Are you sure?" I says, "Yes, I recognize all of these people from doing my research." And the I think I have to say the most surprising person that I found, because she's so interesting, was Isabella d'Este. And she is one of my grandmothers, and her life was
Oh,
just incredible, just amazing. And I never heard of her
gosh.
before.
Yeah, 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 I know, I know. Yeah, it's interesting. I sometimes I'm trying, to imagine what was happening in those years,
Mm,
because now it's so easy to take maybe an airplane, a ticket, and go to the other side of the ocean, you know.
right.
But 200 years ago, 100 years ago, in the early 90s, was so difficult. You have to take a boat to stay 2 months, you know, and
But even
then
but
yeah,
even travel within in Italy, because my grandmother's ancestors, they lived in Naples because they were the nobles, and we made the trip. We made the train ride from Naples to Sheila, and then it was like an
yeah,
hour or so from Sheila to uh Montebello up in the mountains. and we're going through these mountain roads. And I said, and they used to make that trip apparently twice a year. And I said, I can't imagine. They went from Naples and in in a wagon with horses. It must have
Yeah,
taken days just to get from Naples to
yeah.
Calabria.
Yeah, you know what happens sometimes? People say, "Oh, I know that I don't know, my grandfather was from Sicily, but I found, the entrance in the port in Buenos Aires or Sao Paulo or whatever from Genova."
Mhm.
And I'm like, "No, that is not your grandfather. That is impossible, from Sicily to Genoa in the latest 18th. No, that was impossible."
Yeah,
So you try to figure, try to follow again, the ride they did, how
I
they
know.
move from one city to another. It's yeah,
And my wife always says, she said, I wish we could just drop in for a day
yeah,
200 years ago to see how these people lived and
yeah,
everything. And, that would be amazing. And in my case, I was relatively young when all my grandparents passed away because my parents were at the younger end of the family. Uh, and every time I think about it, I said, why didn't I ask? I never asked questions. You know, I never thought
yeah,
to
I
ask
know.
questions. And um, my parents, they didn't talk that much about Italy. I mean, some of my aunts and
No.
uncles were actually born there. Um,
Hmm.
and I didn't think to ask, and I tell people you have to be in touch with your grandparents. You have to ask them questions now before they're not
Yeah,
here anymore.
yeah, 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 that's true. Yeah. I know a
Um,
lot of people, that says, I don't know where my grandfather came from because in my family they never spoke about Italy.
that's right.
There's a lot of people, that they don't know where they're coming from.
Yeah. Well,
Mm,
when I met my cousins in Naples, um, my father told me 35 years ago that he had
mm,
family in Torre del Greco. And we were near there 28 years ago. We went to Pompeii and I saw the
okay,
sign and I said to my wife, I said, remember my father mentioned this, but he didn't say who was there. I never said. Um, when I met my cousin there, he said, you're going to come with me. I'm going to take you someplace. And he took us to an apartment. And two of my dad's first cousins in their 90s lived there, but they had pictures from my grandmother. I never knew these people existed. It
yeah,
was crazy. It was the craziest thing that ever happened to me, for sure.
yeah, yeah, I know. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I found a lot of people when I came back that I didn't know that they were part of my family. Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's an interesting thing because your parents didn't think you should go. What did the Italian family when you came back? What did they think when you came back?
Well, I see few of my grandmother's cousins, and then the other people was new for everybody. We're like
Yeah,
we didn't know each other. No, they know that maybe that my dad was the son of this one, but yeah, we didn't know each other. It was um like creating a new family altogether, knowing that we are family.
yeah, yeah. But the connection is there, right?
Yeah, it is. It
It,
is.
it,
Yeah.
it's amazing, and that's the way I felt. When they
Yeah.
walked in the room, one of the women, looked like my grandmother.
Yeah.
So
I know.
it was like right there, and
Yeah.
they had my parents' wedding picture that my grandmother had sent in 1944
Yeah.
with her handwriting on the
Oh,
back.
that's so nice. Yeah.
They saved it all of these years. Um,
Yeah.
so now now you do work for other people who are looking for their
I
family?
do. I do. Yeah. I have a profile in Instagram and I'm trying to, yeah. Yeah. And I do a lot of genealogies, yeah. And I work as well with the citizenship, but just only through the court.
Yeah. So so let's talk about that a little bit. How do you help for people who want to get started doing their research, what do you suggest?
Well, for people who have to start from zero, from none, it's like start from yourself and going back because it's easier. Yeah. And then, you start for the birth certificate. And then the most important thing is the marriage, because on the marriage are the parents of the groom so we're going like creating generation over generation in that way. And then it's a lot of looking for some kind of trick in the in the certificates. Yeah, and try to figure it out what it can be, the surname, and trying, to know from which port in Italy they go away, or yeah, it's not easy sometimes. It's not really easy.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the easier things, and at least for doing the Italian genealogy, is that at least the women don't change their name.
Yes,
In America, they change their name, and it's
yes.
really tough.
And it's really tough, when some people from the US call me and they say, "Oh, I don't know, my daddy is Luigi Pizzatti and my grandmother was Maria Pizzatti." Oh no, oh no, please. But yes, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and that was the funny thing with my mom's parents. They were both Nicoletti in Italy, but they weren't related. But they had the same
yeah.
last name. I mean, they were probably related at some point, but they weren't,
At some point, yeah,
close,
yeah,
because they came from the same town, so they had to have some relationship there.
yeah,
But my grandmother spoke mostly Italian. She spoke broken English, and one day, I don't know if it was a census man or somebody had come to the house and kept asking. He asked my grandmother, "What's your husband's name?" Luigi Nicoletti. "What's your name?" "Maria Nicoletti." "No, what's your maiden name?" And
no,
she
what's
said,
your name?
"Nicoletti." And he said, "No, Nicoletti." And my uncle was apparently in the other room and heard it. And he says she understands what you're saying. Her maiden name was Nicoletti too.
I got it. Yeah, yes, yeah.
He just thought that
It
she didn't
happened.
understand.
Yeah, it happened.
And
It happened.
and she signed. I mean, my grandfather could sign his name. My grandmother couldn't. She signed with an X. She signed everything. Even in America, she had to sign with an
Yeah,
X because she never learned how to write. And I guess the women
yeah,
back then, born in the 1880s and small little farming, and they didn't need to learn to write, so they
yeah,
didn't, you know.
yeah, yeah,
And yeah, it's that's the one good thing about researching Italians is that if you know, and like I said,
yes.
I was looking when I was looking for my mom's parents. I asked, I didn't know their name, and I think I asked somebody, and then one day I said to my mother, I said, "I don't know what's their parents' names," and my mother said, "Oh, I have the birth certificate. I know the names."
Wow.
And this was like, I was researching for years and I never thought to ask my mother, but I don't know, it was a death
Okay.
certificate. She had the death
See
certificates
your
for both.
hand.
She had the death certificates for both my grandparents. And I never
No
thought to ask
way.
her. And like you said, their parents were
Yes.
wrong.
Yeah. 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 And I've been doing as well the genealogy from Vicenza. Yeah, especially from Masiao, which is in the north, in the mountain. Yeah, which is my city. And everybody, I mean, in that city, there are three surnames, and that's all. You know, you are Rigoni, you are Frigo, or you are Panozzo.
That's it.
That's it. So 100 years ago, they decide to put like a clan name to differentiate, because otherwise it's impossible. So now you have the Panozzo Starello, the Panozzo Rigo, the Panozzo this, the Panozzo that, to separate the families, And anyway, it's a mess.
That's so funny.
Yes. Anyway, it's a mess, because it's like I found a lot of people from those families going to the states, and they give just the name of the clan instead their surname. And that is another mess, because somebody in the United States say, "Oh, my grandfather was Ostarello." Instead, no, that was the clan name.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So you have to do a lot of, corrections on the certificates and yeah.
Yeah. And then, the same thing here in America,
Yeah.
when they came on the ship, you said your name, and if you didn't understand, they would write down anything. If the person didn't
Yeah.
understand, they would, but even researching the Antenati, I found my
Yeah.
great-great-grandmother was from Lucerne, Switzerland, and I found 3 different spellings for her name.
Yeah.
So I tell people too, you don't just go with what you think. Sometimes an A
Yeah.
may be an O, and I may be an E. You need to kind of play with it sometimes.
Yeah. You have to play as well with the pronouns and try to like write and translate, the pronouns.
Yes, that's right.
And then
Yeah.
you find a lot of documents like this in that way. Yeah.
Yeah. And so one thing that's different in the North, I think, than from the South, the civil records don't go as far back, correct?
Yeah, in North, in Vicenza, they start from 1871,
Right.
and instead in Lombardia, 1866, and I don't remember another one. In Torino, the Piedmont region is a little bit difficult, because they have, archives in Austria,
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't even
So
think
it's a
about that.
it's a little bit difficult. Yeah. And you find some archives from not that far away, like 1850s, in French as well.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, I guess those towns were, because they were under French rule or Austrian rule, that's what they knew.
Yeah. The archives, from Genova, from the early 80s, was like in 1825, 1830, are everyone in French as
No
well.
kidding. Oh, wow. Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah, see, what I found with my mom's family, Torito, for some strange reason, they must have started very early archiving it, because the whole town is on the Antenati, and finding people on there from Naples is like, it's a crapshoot. There's so many people in the Naples area that
I know.
if you're lucky, I found some, but no Sorrentinos. I found Piramalo, I found Caracciolo, no Sorrentinos yet. At least none of my Sorrentinos.
Yeah, I know. It's like there were big cities since 200 years ago. And if you see, the books from one single year, like, I don't know, put 1866, they have like 3,000 pages. it's like eternal. If you have to find somebody there, it's eternal. You can put hours and hours sitting there reading the archives.
Yeah, if they even let you stay there. But the problem with there's some like the smaller towns is they may have the comune open for 2 to 4 on Wednesdays, right? So if
I
you're lucky,
know,
if you're lucky to
I
get in
know,
there.
I know that's true. Yeah,
Well, I'm
yeah.
hoping when I go to Torito that the mayor's got the key and he'll let me in and we'll be able to look around. Maybe
Oh,
we'll pull
yeah.
some strings. My
Yeah.
great grandfather, he was the he owned I think 2 cows, and he used to walk through the street with the cows and deliver milk. If you wanted milk, he would milk the cow at your door, and
Yeah, yeah,
that's what he
yeah.
did.
That was something that, especially in the North Italy, still now, when they move the cows from the winter to the state, to go down to the hills for the fresh, herbs and that things.
Mhm.
They do it like every year, like a really like a fest. It's like it's really nice. They bring the cows and yeah, and they sell the
Yeah,
milk and
and
everything.
one of my families, one of my uh, grandmother's older families, they came from Capocota in Molise, and they told me how they would take the sheep from there and go all the way down to
Yeah,
Puglia in the
yeah.
summer, and then
Gosh,
they will come back.
that's a lot.
Yeah, yeah, they used to make this big long trip.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's what they did. That was life
yeah,
back then, right?
yeah. That was
Um,
life. Yeah,
Probably a
it
better life.
was
You're out under the sun and
probably.
the stars and
I know. I know.
no
Yeah.
internet,
Yeah.
no
No
politics,
internet.
no nothing. Um,
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Pat, if people want to contact you to get some work done, where would they find you?
Well, I'm on Instagram right now, and my name there is in Italian, the name. So it's like the Italian genealogist. It's
Y-
la genealogista italiana.
Right, and we see it there we see it there next to you. So
Yeah,
I'll make sure I put that in the post and everything.
yeah,
Um, well,
yeah.
thanks. I really appreciate you taking the time. This was
Thank you
fun, and
very much.
I always learn something. Especially I really love speaking to people in Italy because I get so much more uh, information about there than I do if I'm just talking to somebody in America. Not that their
Yeah,
stories aren't great, but it's always fun
I
and
know.
especially somebody who went back. So that's even more
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Um,
Well, thank you very much for this opportunity. Okay.
Hi, everyone. This is Bob Sorrentino, just letting you know that my new book, Farmers and Nobles, is now available for sale on www.italiangenealogy.blog/Farmers and Nobles, or you can find the link in the podcast notes. Thanks for listening.